Hello world, this is Zen, finally getting back to wrapping up these Titan videos with arguably the most important one, which is going to be the Defender Titan. And I say this because in today's meta of Dominions 5, I think the Defender Titan is the one that fits best into the meta of all these stat resist units or whatnot. And the main purpose of picking them is to not die, because there are certain nations that maybe their sacreds aren't up to par, or to survive, they need this one key spell. Uh, or even there's matchups that they just don't want to take. And when I say that, I'm thinking something like late age Kalem that doesn't want to send their birds into barbarian heavy horse, or gibbers or whatever the heck is just a tough brick wall. So that being said, you might want a Titan just to walk out, meet these either large amount of mundane troops or really powerful sacreds, and just stand in front of them and not die. And by not dying, they're going to slowly whittle away at the enemy, unless they have some spells, but we'll get to that later. But they'll slowly whittle away at the enemy and obviously route them toward the end if your Titan does not die. By doing this, you completely disrupt any momentum of the nation. A good example of this, if you guys have watched the Blitz I streamed recently, I was playing Middle-Aged Abyssia. I had a pretty good head start. I rushed Middle-Aged Man, played by Grip for Life, and he presented me, just as I was getting ready to go in and take out his capital, he presented me with a Defender Titan that was fire resistant, had Earth Magic, and could regenerate. And that was the end of my attack. Uh, it's possible I could have killed that Titan through brute force, but it would have taken so much of my army down with it that I'm not sure I would have had an army left over to defend myself from other attackers, to prevent anyone from just vulturing the spoils of war from me and taking man out, kicking me off their capital, and then taking man themselves. So just the presentation of that Titan, I was forced to pull back from my attack, despite having an overwhelming research and army and everything advantage, just because here is this Titan that with the current research I had at the moment, I could not kill it. And that's pretty much the main goal that you want with the Titan. You won the fight without even having to fight it. That's the best thing you could possibly ask for. The main thing you want to look for a sample chassis, they can be size 5 still as a Defender Titan. That's okay if they're size 5, ideally size 6, of course. You mainly want to look now for Earth and Nature, because the first step of being a Defender Titan is just not dying. Getting into combat and don't die. And to do this, you're going to really want the Iron Skin and Temper Flesh, which is available in the Earth path, as well as Regeneration, which is available in the Nature path. Those two together will get you very, very far in terms of just brick walling an enemy attack. Now, there's a few other paths that are really ideal because you're not expanding this time. Now you're fighting other players. And to fight other players, you can't just always be a brick wall. You need something else. And that something else can take the shape of a Gorgon that petrifies the attackers around it if they fail a magic resistance check. It can be in the shape of a regenerating immortal undead unit that has a fear aura. But ideally, it takes shape in the form of an air titan that can magic phase attack things, or a nature water titan that can cast foul vapors. And the reason that's kind of important to be able to cast that foul vapors is because that will wipe out any army that doesn't have poison resistance. And the reason that you want the air titan is so you can cast cloud trapeze and show up when they're not expecting it. There was a game very recently where I could not defeat the foe's armies, but I was playing Caleb, so I can jump on his forts, and then when he starts sending out his army to come fight me, I could cloud trapeze my Titan onto that army before they engage my own forces. Because if my forces were to fight alongside the Titan, they'd likely get HP routed. And because it is in the magic phase, I don't have to play the guessing game of where his army is going to go. Because if I start playing the guessing game, there's an opportunity, there's a chance that I guess incorrectly, and my Titan has now wasted a turn walking to the middle of nowhere and has accomplished nothing. Whereas with Cloud Trapeze, I can guarantee that I'm going to land on that army that ideally is not expecting me. This will usually work at least once. Anytime it works after that, it's kind of on your opponent. But cloud trapezing will work at least once, and that's what kind of makes the air path important. And then foul vapors is just, again, you're playing the guessing game, but you're also going to kill the entire enemy army, and that might be enough to make them turn around. If they see those paths on your Titan, they might just turn around. So those are the two additional paths that I want to add now that maybe the Wake Titan didn't have. The Wake Expander Titan didn't have these paths, but now this one definitely wants them. Now, and also while you're casting foul vapors, another thing that might help, because maybe you don't have foul vapors yet, is Moss Body is available if you have the Nature Water path, and that will help you brick wall the enemy better. So there might be a window where you have the alteration research, but you don't have the enchantment research. So you just Moss Body yourself, and that's perfectly okay. You ideally want to do that anyways, because the combination of Moss Body with High Protection, with Temper Flesh, can completely negate almost all the mundane damage an enemy can do. And if you don't have the water path, you have the air path instead. The same can almost be done with Mist Form available to, again, the air path. Those are the primary differences, I guess, that a Defender Titan is going to have over the Awake Expander Titan. They're going to have these extra paths that let it do extra things that can defeat players. Now, before I even get into the construction gear that you might want, because that's a very important aspect of it. You can't just send Naked Titans at people. That doesn't work. These aren't monsters anymore. But before I get into the construction gear, I do really want to mention that a fight against another player with a Titan, especially if your Titan has the air path for magic phase, you don't, how to explain this, or rather here, when someone posts on any of the Dominion's Reddits and they just post a picture of a Titan, they're like, okay, how do we kill this? And anyone's going to look at your Titan and they're going to say, okay, well, I noticed that they're casting Iron Skin, but they don't have any shock resistance. So now they're at a net -5 shock resistance, which means, okay, well, you just kill it by sending one person to cast Lightning Bolt. That's going to be the answer on that Reddit or that Discord thread or whatever. But just send one person to cast Lightning Bolt. Just summon a small air elemental and done. Your problem is solved. So your job as the person using the Titan is to try and preempt these exchanges. So the first time you use your Titan, honestly, do whatever you want. Ideally, your opponent doesn't expect you to have a Titan at all. So you just kind of go in there and you hit them with something that you have pre-scouted. You know what their army can do. So you have built your Titan to counter that army. And boom, you send your Titan in and it wipes out that army. And you did it with that shock resistance. Now, the second time you do it, they might have that lightning bolt caster. They might have someone with a lightning spear. They might have small air elemental casters or something, or big air elemental casters, who knows? It is up to you to have said, well, I'm attacking right now into, I don't know, Aryu, and I expose that I have a shock weakness. They are very obviously going to take advantage of that. So it is up to you to bring a scout alongside your Titan, or maybe if your Titan goes back to a lab, to equip them with something to cover up that weakness. And maybe that's going to expose a different weakness. Maybe to add that lightning ring, you have removed their, I don't know, ice helmet. Now they're weak against ice. But that's fine, because although Aryu has the ice path, last fight they saw you with a cold resistant Titan and a lightning weak Titan. So they're going to be casting and focusing on air spells. Late in the game, as the game progresses, remember, we are talking a very narrow window here of like turn 10 to 30. Late in the game, they might have answers to both of these questions at the same time. Or maybe their mages, even on their own, say, well, he's cold resistant, so I'm going to cast Frozen Heart instead of Lightning Bolt. Those things can happen. But early in the game, when research is so narrow, it doesn't often happen. And you are very likely to get away with things like that little quick switch right there that I just mentioned of swapping from ice weakness to lightning weakness. Because remember, you can't really protect against everything. And if you protect against every elemental weakness, someone's going to show up and hit you with a sword. So it's a rotating door of the protections that you want to do. And the more you use your Titan, obviously, the more opportunity the opponent's going to have to kill it. Titans are very easy to kill if your opponent is expecting it or if they, counter it correctly. So that was just a long tirade here on just how to use these guys. We'll finally get into the items real quick and get these out of the way. So I've loaded up a quick little test game that I may or may not pop up on screen, or I may just show you the items. So common construction 2 items. Construction 0 and construction 2 are the main ones you're going to be working with. Construction 4 is a luxury because before this, you're going to be researching alteration. So at least 4, sometimes 5. You're going to be researching alteration. You're going to be researching enchantment. You might have to get at least conjuration 3 maybe to get earth power or something. You probably don't have the time to get construction 4. So construction 2 is really easy. It's 150 research. Anyone can do that. 2 seconds. So common items that you might like in construction. So for one-handed weapons, a Mace of Eruption is good. It's not a firebrand. You actually need to hit with the Mace of Eruption to land the blow, but that will kill a square if it lands, usually. Ice Mist Scimitar, it's okay, but it's very important in that it covers your cold resistance. A Stinger is really good. It's going to be an armor-piercing attack on the guy in front of you, and an armor-piercing attack by a Titan is probably going to kill something. And more importantly, it's length 3, so it can repel and avoid yourself getting repelled. Any length on a size 4 or higher Titan, usually a length 2 weapon and above, will prevent you from getting repelled, because since you're higher than size 4, you get +1 to your length, making it 3. So you can't get repelled by a spear. Very important. Main, and I'm going to butcher this, but main Gosh of Parrying, these are really good items if you get 2 of them. Because if you defense stack yourself high enough, you can potentially survive long enough for something else to win the battle for you. An example of something winning the battle for you would be something like Foul Vapors, or maybe you have that Titan that has like innate Vine Shield, which prevents your harass penalty from getting too high, because now you dodge the first wave of attacks, then you Vine everybody, and then your defense goes back up to 1,000,000. Maybe you have Fire Shield, so while they're attacking and missing you, they're getting hit by Fire Shield. It doesn't matter. 2 main Gauss repairing increases your defense by 12, your attack by, well, I guess 2 each, doesn't stack that way. That's a very good item. Star of Heroes is kind of if you want to kill another Titan because you'll break their armor. It's very rare. I haven't used those in a bit. Faithful gives you luck. I haven't really, no, I wouldn't recommend it. The Vines, or the Vine Whip or the Thunder Whip are kind of good because they can repel a lot because they're very long. The Thunder Whip, you just have to be careful because 5 shock resistance is not enough to survive the damage that it will do. And the Vine Whip just kind of entangles the square in front of you. It's kind of there. 2-handed weapons, there's very honorable mention for the Enchanted Pike because it is so gosh darn long that alongside with being really tall or really, size 4 and above Titan, it's going to be length 6, it's going to repel everything. Holy Scourge kills undead. Great Sword of Sharpness is a classic. But for these purposes of Defender Titaning, like half of these are kind of, the main ones you want are probably the Stinger, the Pike, the Whips. Your goal isn't to kill too many things, but mainly to survive. Sometimes people are going to send like solo thugs at you with great swords of sharpness. So you need to be able to kill at least those. Shields aren't the best on most Titans because often you get harassed down, so your defense is 0, and then if they get broken, it sucks. But eye shields are really good. As like an exception to this, eye shields are really good because they'll blind enemies, and that's a -9 to attack. So that's significant. Shield of Valor can give you air shield if they have too many crossbows. Lead shields can give you magic resistance. And the Ice Aegis gives you ice protection, which means in cold 3, you will have an additional 3 protection. But mind you that in heat 3, you will have a -3 protection. And it covers, again, a potential cold weakness. For your helmets, honestly, anything that's an actual helmet and not a crown is probably fine. I've rolled out with black steel helmets. I've rolled out with dragon helmets, which cover your fire weakness, and this is very important. They give you extra morale. Dragon helmet's probably one of my favorite ones because of that. It gives you the morale and it covers the fire weakness while having good protection. The horror helmet is good in that it gives you fear, which can help you repel things. If you have all, they're a good mix. The horned helmet, I do not I see everyone using this. I do not recommend the horned helmet at all. It reduces your defense by 1. Don't recommend the horned helmet. And then the ice helmet offers less protection than the rest, but gives you cold resistance. So that one's really good too. In terms of armor, pretty much either of the first two black steel plates are fine, followed by the Kithrionic lion pelt. Those are the main ones I use. In a pinch, you can use enchanted ringmail, you can use the copper plate, you can use the fire plate. They're not that great, but the ringmail is kind of like the bare bones. The copper plate and the fire plate give you resistances, but really efficient ones are the Kithrionic lion pelt and the first two black steel plates. Just be very aware of your reinvigoration values, your encumbrance values, I should say, um, if you start using the black steel plates, because if you have very high encumbrance, especially at the end of your script, and you don't have, I guess, positive reinvigoration, your Titan will fatigue out, and when it fatigues out, it will get hit by critical strikes, and critical strikes negate your a large chunk of your armor, and they will kill you. So be very mindful of your fatigue. Boots, honestly, ignore all of the boots here. The only one in Construction 2 that is worth anything is the Ranger boots because it gives you 2 reinvigoration. The Forest Survival can come in handy if you need your Titan to move around. And I guess, you know what, let me be fair. The Birch Boots gives you cold resistance, which might be a weakness that your Titan has. But otherwise, the main boot you want on your Defender Titan is a Ranger's Boots. If for whatever reason you have Construction 4, you switch those to Boots of the Messenger. There are almost universally no other options in this low-level construction. Your miscellaneous slot can be filled with who knows what. This is your slot to cover your weaknesses, your elemental weaknesses, or if you absolutely know that they're not using magic against you because they're Ulm or something, you can get a Bracer of Protection for more armor and more defense. You can get a Stone Bird for more defense and more repels, and I guess it does do damage, especially it's very good at killing elementals because of that multi-strike. You can get a Pendant of Luck. It's actually good if you are regenerating. Burning Pearl and Fire in a Jar both give different resistances as well. They're not as good as the rings, but they do have extra effects. I don't recommend. Okay, good. I was going to say the Berserking Amulet, but it's not Construction 2, it's Construction 4. A Cat Charm, I don't recommend it either because it's defense skill plus 4 for 10 gems. The Bracer of Protection or the Stonebird both give you 2 defense and something else that's usually better. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you have additional magic resistance amulet if you need it, water breathing if you need it, but miscellaneous slots aren't going to really make or break. They're more for you to customize your Titan to stop whatever is getting countered. The last thing that is important to note on your Defender Titan, if you have a chassis or a combination or something that has additional design points that are superfluous, you don't really need them right now to survive, or you don't think you'll need them, you can actually bleed a little bit into the utility Titan role. And this little bleed is going to help you in a few things. It's going to help you. And when I say help you, I mean these are things that maybe when you designed your Descender Titan, you want to keep in mind on what paths you take on whether you want to do Foul Vapors, whether you want to do Moss Body or Cloud Trapeze. Because it can help you fix your magic diversity, especially maybe your Titan has Astral. Be aware of Magic Duel. But maybe your Titan has Astral and Earth. Now you have an extra cross path, or you have Fire and Death. The magic paths aren't set in stone, but when you're designing these Titans, these Defender Titans, your first and foremost goal is to keep yourself alive. But if you can fit stuff after that, that's when you start turning into a utility Titan as well. So you want to try and fix your magic diversity, be it nature magic or air magic or whatever. And as the game progresses, if you have a high path in one of those, like Nature 4, well, maybe your Titan can't solo armies anymore, but it can be a big caster for your armies. Maybe it can cast Serpent's Blessing for you and make you immune to Foul Vapors. Or not immune, but highly resistant. Maybe it can cast Fog Warriors or Storm. I don't know. It can cast big spells for you. Ideally, you can also craft. If you have the nature astral crosspath, you can craft a moonvine bracelet, which is outside of that crosspath, or outside of like a design titan is actually hard to kind of get. Or maybe you have fire death and you can get an additional fire boost. Or maybe you have astral 4 and astral earth and you can get all the way up to doing a ring of sorcery. These are more utility titan roles, but your defender, if it has those paths, can bleed into that role and do a little bit more. And the one final thing that a defender titan can do is after the phase where it's used to actually defend yourself, when you can get a little bit riskier, it's not really providing too much value. This is usually like in the turn 20s, either after or your first war never happened. You can actually use it to wipe out thrones really, really easily. You obviously scout out the throne and then, solve the puzzle that you need to do to clear out that throne with your Titan and a certain subset of items. At this point, you can probably use Construction 4 if you're using it for this purpose, but it's something I've done a lot where rather than moving an entire army with a bunch of mages to each and every throne, I just kind of kit out a Titan in a certain way, send it to the throne by itself, take it, claim it, and then off to the next throne. Um, a lot of players have a bad habit of not taking their indie thrones. It's kind of weird. And a big Titan trivializes this. But with that said, I'll close out here on the Defender Titan video. If you guys have any questions, please add them in the comments below. I'll try my best to get to them. And do be aware that at the end of the series, I will have kind of a common questions answered, or I'll kind of have like an overall review about Titans in general. Don't expect that to be too long. But yeah, please let me know if you have any questions. And I'll see you guys next time with the Utility Titan video.